We now have an exclusive interview with the Conservative MP for Ashfield, Lee Anderson. I used to be the MP for Ashfield. Lee Anderson used to work for me. Then he jumped ship to the Tories.
What did you say to him then?
I think it might have. Well, as you will find out, I don't think it was to do with me. But this was one of those. I mean, sort of, wasn't a conventional interview, of course, because we know each other so well, and there has been history.
Each other's secrets. Oh, there we go. I'm going to watch this as well.
I started off by asking him if, when he did work for me, when he was a Labour councillor, he'd been a Labour Party member for decades, really, did he believe in Labour values then?
I did, yeah. I sort of believed in what I thought Labour values were, the traditional Labour working class values, which comes back from, like I always say, Gloria, in the 1970s when I was brought up, it was Skinner, Scargill and Tony Benn. That's what we listened to in our house, and that's what many people listened to in villages across Nottinghamshire, South Yorkshire, Derbyshire, in the pit villages. So that was sort of gospel. And I campaigned early in the 80s when Michael Foot was the leader of the Labour Party. We know how that ended. And then rejoined the party, I think, in 2010.
When Labour lost.
Yeah, and then a couple of years later, I had the good fortune to go and work for the Labour MP in Ashfield, and that's when I sort of found the Labour Party out a little bit. Not yourself, because I thought you was a decent MP and a sensible member of the Labour Party, but obviously, I became a Labour councillor and got involved with the Labour group at Ashfield Council, who were Momentum at the time, very, very left wing. And I just thought to myself, my goodness, this is not what I joined the Labour Party for. I don't want to be signing books of condolence for Fidel Castro and waving silly flags about at conference. And they was more interested, should I say, in waving the flags of places like Palestine than actually talking about real poverty in Ashfield. And that's what I sort of wanted to get in politics for, to make a difference. So,
do you think then, if you'd have been a Labour councillor in a different area, obviously those people aren't here to defend themselves, but you make your point. Might you not have left the Labour Party if it was so local?
No,
what you found out.
No, I mean the local was one thing. As a Labour Party member from a working class area, I'm waking up thinking to myself, my goodness, I'm in the same party of some of your old colleagues, your Thornburys, your McDonalds, your Jeremy Corbyns. I'm thinking, what these people are in places like Ashfield, they would never get voted in. They are seen as political lunatics, so far removed from what actually working class people believe in. These are ideological politicians. They're not, you couldn't put them in the local Witherspoons or the local
Would you put
managers.
Jacob Rees-Mogg in the local
Yes, I would. Absolutely, 100%.
Okay,
I could, Jacob, although he's a posh man, he's come from a privileged background, you can speak to anybody, but if you drag somebody like McDonnell or Corbyn into my local miners' welfare, they would get ripped apart just because of their beliefs.
Have you lost any friends or had any arguments with family members since you changed your political identity? You had a very clear political identity before, and you have a very clear political identity now. We've
had conversations. I've not lost any friends because I've not got many real friends anyway. I've probably got 6 or 7 real friends, and these are the friends I went to school with.
Yeah.
So not real friends should not fall out over politics. Probably the hardest thing for me was one of my sons, my youngest son, Harry. He's a massive socialist, and he was a member of the Labour Party. I'm not sure if he still is. A big Corbyn fan as well. So he was very upset when I joined the Conservative Party. But you know what? Blood's thicker than water. You get over these things. And I just spoke to him today, actually. He's off on his holidays next week, and I just wish, says I hope you have a nice time. So yeah, I mean, obviously, people do get on your case sometimes when you make that transition. But a lot of those people who were a little bit grumpy with me for joining the Tory party, 18 months later, they all voted for me. And so did 5 million other ex-Labour voters voted Tory for the first time in 2019.
Are you and Harry okay now?
Yes, absolutely fine.
But there was a difficult period at the election.
Yeah, obviously, because when you're at university and you're a proper socialist and...
Didn't he become a vegetarian? I seem to remember
yes, he did.
The stories he telling me when we worked together.
Yes, he did. He sat me down. He'd been at uni about 6 months. He says, Dad, I've got something to tell you. I'm not like you thought I was. And I thought, he says, I'm a vegetarian. I thought, that's terrible. It's the first vegetarian ever in my family.
And I know that's true because I remember you going. So you and Harry are...
We're fine.
You're fine.
We're best mates.
Okay, you're happily married now. And I know that there have been moments of real... you fell in love with somebody, Sinead, who has cystic fibrosis, and I knew you when she was waiting for the transplant, when she had the transplant, and I saw the effect of that stress on you. I mean, then you went through COVID, which must have been incredibly worrying for you because she had underlying health conditions. What's it like to be married to somebody who has a condition as serious as cystic fibrosis?
Well, it's much better now than when it was, because at the time when she had a transplant, she'd only got a few months to live. And she was on the transplant list for, I think it was 2 years, nearly to the day. She had 5 false alarms, where we get to theatre at Papworth Hospital, we get you ready, get you gowned up, and then the surgeon says, sorry, it's not going ahead. So you think, oh dear. And that happened 5 times. But on the 6th time, he said, right, it's going ahead. And that's when it hit her. She sort of broke down and said, I don't want to have it done. I'm going to die. Because there's a big chance you're going to die on the operating table. So no, you know, I had a little chat with her, saying, look, it's either have it done or you're going to die anyway. So she agreed to have it done. After about 7 or 8 hours, the surgeon came out and says, it's not looking that good. We can't get one of the lungs out. It's just, you know, it's disappeared. You know, and then 14 hours later, he came out and says, we've done it. We're going to sew her back up, but she's going to be out of it for a few days. But I think 12 or 13 days after the lung transplant, she walked out and we went home. We went back up to Ashfield. And within 2 weeks, she was moaning at me and telling me to sort the house out and clean up and get the garden done. So I thought, well, she's back to normal. So, but it was a difficult journey, Gloria. The physical part of a transplant is difficult, but the mental part is, you know, living with the thought that you've got somebody's organs inside your body. That's the bits you struggle to cope with, and that's hard for me to empathise or sympathise with, because I don't know. I wouldn't, you know, it's very difficult. But we met the donor's family. We met them several times, and we've got a good relationship with them. And she's fine now. She's a counsellor. She's a county counsellor and a district counsellor. So yeah, things are good. And
your health hasn't always been perfect, has it? And I don't know what age this was at, but I remember you.
36, I was.
36, and you got testicular.
I did, yeah.
Testicular cancer.
Yeah, I did. I went to the doctor. Well, the first thing you do when you get a pain is you Google it and then frighten yourself to death, don't you? And we all Google.
Was Google around when you were 36?
No, very funny. Well, the internet was around, and I checked it out. I thought, I've got this, and so I went to see the doctor, and I told him what I'd got. He says, no, don't be silly. It's just a bit of swelling. I says, no, I want a second opinion. So he sent me to went to Kingsmill Hospital. Yeah. And they scanned me and they said, you better, you know, you're stopping in. And they whipped it off the following day. And I went to, and they sent for me, did me a scan and said, you've got it in your lungs as well.
What?
Yeah. And I thought, oh God, this is not good. So I said to my dad, I think I've got it in my lungs. I've got to go back. He says, well, don't worry. If you die, I'll look after the kids. I thought, well, thanks for that, Dad. That's really reassured me. That's my dad being blunt. And it turned out that it wasn't secondary tumours. It was dust from working down the pit. That's what it was. So, yeah, that was a tough time because I've got 2 little children living with me as well.
Did they know?
No, I told them I'd got a bad leg. So, but they know now, obviously.
Right, Lee, you are quite controversial.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. So I read.
Allegedly.
So I'm not particularly interested in going into the details of these issues, but things like I'm not watching the England in the Euros final because the players have been taking the knee, or you can feed yourself on 30p. So without going into the specifics of the issues, do you ever think, gosh, I just wish sometimes I would pause, count to 10 before are you a hothead and you say these things while you're being a hothead? Well,
let's start on the 30p meals. I set up a food like a food project with my local food bank last year, probably 18 months ago, where we got a chef in and we cooked on a budget. As a matter of fact, the chef said to me he could feed a family of 5 on 50 quid a week, and I said, you're talking rubbish. So I challenged him, and we got the college involved. We got a film crew there. It's all been filmed. And I went to the Aldi and bought the ingredients, gave it to him. We did a ready, steady, cook type event, and he actually cooked 170 odd meals for 50 quid, which worked out at 30 pence each.
Yeah.
And I thought,
and I suppose 170 meals, that would be scale would be involved.
So the point was, and I tried to get lots of media attention. I think GBNews came up to film it as well, and nobody was interested. But as soon as I said it in the Commons, everybody was talking about it, and that's all I wanted. I wanted the whole country talking about it, because we have got young people now in this country who cannot cook a meal from scratch. And if they could, if we taught cooking in schools now and shown people how to budget and how to buy ingredients and cook from scratch, their money would go a lot further. When
you get a tirade of reaction, when you say some of the things, whether it's, and I gave those 2 examples about missing the euros, or the 30p example, does it hurt? No. I just to put things into perspective, Gloria, when it all kicked off and I was getting a tough time in the Commons from some of the Labour MPs, I actually wrote to every single Labour MP to invite them to come up to Ashfield, to my food bank, to the food project, and have a go. Not one accepted. There's your answer. They don't want answers to solutions. They just want to score political points. When you see men and women striking today, do you get, because of your experience and what happened in those former mining communities, do you think, I get that, I get why they're doing that? It's different with the mining industry. Where I'm from, obviously, Uthwaite in Nottinghamshire, the coal mine, when it was open, was the whole community. It's not just about a coal mine. It's about the colliery's got a football team, it's got a cricket team, it's got a rugby team, it's got a social club, we've got tennis courts, we've got putting greens, everything revolves around the pit being there. It's a full community. The community even police themselves. So when a coal mine does go in a small village like that, things just change overnight. And that's the bit that the Conservative Party at the time, and Maggie, didn't get. They didn't understand that you're just ripping the guts out of a complete community. And if you're going to do that, then you've got to replace it with something. And they didn't. And it's took us 30 odd years to get over that. People have got good jobs now and better standard of living and better houses. But it was the community thing for me. You know, people down here didn't quite get it, what you was taking away. You're not just taking away miners' jobs, you're taking away people's lives. But if you fast forward now, I look at some of the union leaders, I look at your Mick Lynch's of this world, I think he's a despicable man. I think we've just come through 2 years of hell with COVID, and we've now got a war in Ukraine, and you know the country should be coming together and uniting. We just lost our Queen, and what does he decide to do? He decides to try and hold the country to ransom again by having these strikes, which, you know, I don't support these strikes at all. I don't think the majority of people in Ashfield support these strikes. So I just think, you know, just help the country, get round the table, let's talk. You know, because at the end of the day, Gloria, most people in this country, even Labour Party voters, aren't some left-wing, rabid revolutionary who want to bring they just want a decent life, they want a decent wage, they want the kids to go to a decent school and a decent healthcare from the local hospital. That's all we want. It's not much. Lee Anderson, always interesting talking to you when you were a Labour colleague. Still interesting to talk to you now you're a Conservative MP. Thank you. And now we're friends. Indeed.